It's stories, lies, and shenanigans. You know the drill. That's right. Stories, lies, and shenanigans. I'm your captain speaking, that exciting dude, as we get into the intro right away, or as some people call me, Ted. You know the drill. Let's hit the follow button, whistle, raccoon, dirty sock, punch in the bag. You know the drill. To hear more of this voice, I am on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Deezer, Castbox, Podchaser, and Apple. And I keep forgetting to say YouTube. And obviously you are listening to me on one of those platforms. But if one tends to be better for you than the other, just letting you know where I'm at. Alright, lastly, we need to give thanks to Brock Hewitt, Stories in Sound called Ages Ago. Sound called Heartman's by Paradise Island. The sound called Tropicana by Soundroll. And lastly, the latest edition, Airplane Mode by Yuckonup. These are all from upbeat.com, UPPBEAT.com. I'll let you know, folks. Last week, there was a lot going on. Yes, I didn't do one. There's a lot going on right now. I've got some pretty painful stomach issues going on. So, you know the drill. We're going to cover this right off the bat. You might hear me say drink, which means I'm going to be drinking one of these three liquids that are in front of me. Orange juice, water, or if I decide to finally take some of my cough DM, which is actually expired. So it's probably a strong choice that I'll be drinking that. Obviously, I can't drink what's rest of the bottle, because probably more doses than what you're supposed to, but I might have to be taking a chug of that. Coming soon. Alright, there's one game as we get into the sports. You know the drill. I always like to do the sprinkle of sports. And you'll probably hear me sniffle. I'm going to do my best to not do it a ton, but you're going to probably hear it, because the sniffles are kind of there. But as we get into sports, so if you're not into sports, I say this every podcast, you could probably skip, let's see, looking at my sports notes, I'll say 4 to 6 minutes ahead. Probably not even that, but you know what, it is what it is. So before we get into sports, I had to erase all of last week's, because as you know, didn't do the podcast last week. But there's one game that I definitely want to share from 2 weeks ago. It was a Thursday night game, so it was roughly almost 2 weeks ago. And it was between the Raiders and the Chargers. Now the Raiders, Los Angeles Raiders, they have been really... They've had a lot going on this year, between a coach change and a firing and a lot of changes amongst personnel and the coaching staff, and it's been not a great year for the Raiders. But they've been slowly climbing the ladder of W's. And they got an amazing W 2 weeks ago against the Chargers. They blew them out of the water by a score of like 62. I know that was for a fact. To like 13, I want to say. Something like that. Alright, so continuing on the NFL, we are going to continue with my Lions that defeated the Vikings by a score of 30-24, and these are last week's scores, which, with how other games ended up putting them in the top of their division. So they have won that title, which is very exciting. They've made the playoffs, which is very exciting, the first time in 30 years. So it's definitely a big thing for the Detroit Lions. Hopefully they just don't wash out on the first game when it comes time to the playoffs. There's still 2 weeks to play before it's playoffs, but they have locked and loaded a spot in the playoffs. Alright, so moving on. There was a very wild game against the Dolphins and the Cowboys, in which the Miami Dolphins ended up defeating the Dallas Cowboys 22-20, or as I like to call them, the Cowgirls. The Patriots, that have been at the bottom of the barrel, and the Broncos, they started out at the bottom of the barrel, but they've been slowly getting some W's. Time for a drink. They have Patriots beat the Broncos, the Denver Broncos, 26-22. And then we're back to the Raiders. The Los Angeles Raiders, they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, which was surprising. And actually, it's not really surprising because the Chiefs, I don't know what their issue is. They have just been, I don't know if they're too hyped up with Taylor Swift in the stands, with, going out with Travis Kelce. Everyone's so Tay. Who knows? But anyhow, the Raiders beat them 20-14. It was a very good game to watch. Then to end the week, there was finally a good matchup between two rivals and good teams. They were both 11-4 going into this matchup. That was the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers, and the Ravens won 33-19. And from what I saw before I had to go to sleep, before I had to go to work, it was a very good match. It was a very good ball game. Lots of back and forth and all that good stuff. In the NHL world, my Red Wings, a few more L's in the past few weeks. 1 W out of, I think, 6 games. Not good. Not good at all. Not good at all. In an NBA, which I am not a basketball person, the Detroit Pistons have only won 1 game out of the, I didn't count, but we're just going to say 20 that they've played. And that was the very first game. That was what they won, was the very first game. And it's nothing but L's behind every other matchup after that. That's just crazy. Alright, that's a wrap for the sports. Now it's time to move on to the podcast. And of course, I really should have organized these notes a little bit better. I'm going to do the best to keep these notes kind of in an order fashion. But I was also taking them as it was coming in this particular video that I thought was very interesting that I watched. Alright, let's dive right into this story. Oh, not that one. Let's get this background. Alright, so this interesting YouTube story that I found has to deal with about a hitman for hire from a particular woman. This happened in about 2008-2009 time frame. And the suspect is a small, dainty, attractive, high-class, very manipulative Dahlia Dipolita is her name. And what she did to get the background going is she had a real estate license, and she made a particular connection with Mike Dipolita. Obviously, she has been keeping the last name, who was a very successful businessman. Despite there were some issues, and we'll get into that later as far as the business side. He was 10 years older than her. I don't think it really said how old she was. At least I didn't write it down. It doesn't matter. She was if you know what I'm saying. Drink. So, this happened in Palm Beach, Florida. Like I said, between 2008 and 2009. And how they met was, and at the time that they met, Mike was still technically married. He was going through a divorce, but he was still married. And basically, on Dahlia, on top of her real estate, she was a real estate person, and so on top of showing homes, she was also showing herself, because Mikey boy decided to hire an escort service, in which this is how they met. And then it became a regular ordeal that Mike would constantly, I guess you could say, order Dahlia. Where then finally Dahlia was just, they became really close friends. And after Mike's divorce, they finally ended up getting married. So the little dark horse that was in Mike's life. Well, let me get you a new background sound. This is getting too soft at the end. Alright, here we go. So with Mike's background is basically, like I said, he was in the business side of things. I guess he kind of had a pyramid-y, Ponzi-ish scheme going on, because he had legal troubles, and they were mostly taken care of by the time they met, except I guess there was one person supposedly still out trying to find him. I want to cough, but I'm trying not to. Oh, it's like right there in the back of the throat, you know, that tickle spot. That's just like, you know, it's like something's just like 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 right there. Oh, I just like so want to cough. Okay. So Mike supposedly, not supposedly, but he had this like last little legal issue that was kind of, it was a surprise to Dahlia, because this person found their residence and approached him, which then Dahlia became suspicious of Mike. But Mike also became suspicious of Dahlia because before this, despite being in trouble, if you want to say per se with the law, he's never had any police pull him over at the rate that he was starting to get pulled over. The minute all of a sudden, Dahlia and he were finally married. Like, it was like every 2 weeks he was getting pulled over by the police, being suspected of, having drugs or a gun or something. And he became very suspicious. And, and it was like in the course of 4 or 5 months. He was getting pulled over, like I said, about every week, every 2 weeks. Getting pulled over like 10 times in that length of time. So he started to, he started wondering about Dahlia. But then he finally got the knock that saved his life. And it was from an ex-boyfriend of Dahlia that supposedly she was talking to. And basically, the word is that Dahlia wanted to hire a hitman to kill Mike because Mike did have a lot of money. Essentially to get all of his damn money. To just put it out there. So Mike went to the police, told them what everything's going on, corroborated, with this ex-boyfriend, this other individual that knew Dahlia. So it really didn't go into how they got the whole meeting going, but long story short, basically Dahlia ended up meeting with this quote-unquote hitman, which was really an undercover police officer, and was talking about how, when Mike did. And it wasn't like a, next week Monday or next week on this day. Like, she was like, boom, I'm 2 days, I want him done for. Like, it was like a right away thing. It wasn't like a, let's plan this out a little bit, do it next week. Like, I guess most hits go. I don't know. I'm not into that business, so I couldn't tell you. So with that being said, they had to definitely get a plan of action going for Mike on how he was going to deal with this day, and how everything was going to go down. So the day that she wanted this hitman to, aka, kill Mike. Basically, the hitman, because he was the undercover officer, had to put a good little story of, you should do this, you should do that, you should be here. So it really helped them, the police, contain Mike. And, to really control the situation, which is obviously what they wanted. So basically, the morning of the hit, of the kill, I guess Dahlia went to go work out. Mike played the 6-card game, stayed home. Or maybe she suggested for him to stay home. Basically, he stayed home. Besides the point, whatever. He stayed home. Which is when the police went to, get him, to bring him to the station. And then they gave her the call that, gave Dahlia the call that her husband was killed. Or no, they gave her the call that she needed to come home. There was an incident that happened. That's what it was. So she came back home. Police cars everywhere. They set it up like it was a crime scene. I mean, you got to do the whole 9 yards. They're like, yeah, a neighbor called in. They heard ruckus and a gunshot. They kept telling her, the police were telling her, it's bad. And it's interesting because it wasn't like she could go anywhere else. Like, they contained her, told her it was bad, but they're like, but we need to bring you down to the station. Part of routine, questioning. Which when she was talking to the hitman, aka the police officer, she was warned that, this is going to happen. It's part of routine of the police. And she was like, yeah, I got it. So everything was just like peachy. And of course, she could have won a couple Golden Globes for how she was acting when they told her things went bad with her husband. And she was just, it was hideous to watch the reenactment acting. And there was a couple of live videos, like of videos from back then. And it was just, it was pitiful. It was definitely some acting. You could definitely tell it was some acting. So they get Dahlia to the police station. They get her into a room to interrogate her. And I'm not going to go too much into the interrogation, but long story short is she didn't want to get filmed, and that's all part of the interrogation is, you're going to get filmed because the police are going to have it for their evidence. It's just how it is. So finally she was like, okay. But at this point, her mode changed from being this grieving, aka widow, to now she's like, what's going on? And she started like playing the defensive game. And it took some pries back and forth of the police talking to her before she finally opened up and would give them like angles to work with to talk about, like who this person was. And she started talking about like all these people. I mean, I couldn't even keep it straight. Like, I don't even know how the police could keep it straight. Long story short, she finally said, she finally started to confess to like meeting with this hitman, but not really saying that she met with a hitman. She was like, yeah, I was with a friend, and she's being very, what's the word I want to use? Coy sounds good, but I don't know if it's the right word. She was being very odd. And in the end, they brought in the undercover cop that played the hitman. And she still was like denying it. And I'm just like, okay, at this point, she's just delusional. This is just a delusional nut. And then in the background of behind people outside of the door, finally the husband, well, the ex-husband, or the aka supposed to be dead husband, was just like, really? This is really what you want? Oh my god, and you should have seen what she was doing. She was like, oh my god, he's alive. Oh, you're okay. Oh my god, it was phenomenal acting, let me tell you. But it was just like, man. So then I did some more Googling after I watched this video. And there were some more stories, like recent stories on Dahlia, and how she's like saying how she's still innocent, and she never tried to kill her husband. And it was like, you stupid. They got you on video. I mean, you're saying you're telling the hitman you just want this done with right away. You can't wait for anything. You just had to have this done because he wanted to get his money. And I was just like, oh my good lord. And still to this day, she's claiming her innocence. I'm not a very violent person, but let me tell you, there are some people in this world that I think there are. No, it's not. There is a very fast, sharp object that flies very fast in the air that is meant for them. If you get what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's everyone. I'm just saying that there are some people in this world that could use this particular piece of metal. Just saying. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm correct. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just simply saying I think there are some people in this world that deserve a special piece of metal. But as I was starting to get to, I started looking at the more Hitman stories. And there was a few other stories, but they weren't very long. It was very short. And I was just amazed. It was just the amount of women that hire these hitmen. And I did find one that was a male, so I'm not totally sexist. I did find one that was a male. So I will say that. I like the 5 that I found. And, but I was just like, who has the audacity to, I don't know, to me, it's mind-boggling. If I think of, I don't want to be with someone, I don't think of, I don't want to be with them and they can't be with anyone else, so let's just kill them. No. If you don't want to be with someone, then just divorce them. It's like, Jesus, Pete. This isn't 1950 where it's like, oh my God, divorce. It's a sin. In case you haven't noticed. I don't know how it is for the rest of the world, but in the US, if you haven't been divorced, you are not in the club. Oh crap, drink. I mean, I don't even know what the rate is in the US, but if I had to guess, of all the married couples, I'd have to say 60% get divorced, maybe 70%. You know what? We're gonna Google it. If I can get to Google. Alrighty. Yeah, almost 50% of all marriages in the United States will end in divorce or separation. And 41% it's from a first marriage. And 35% is from a second marriage. Yeah, that's just crazy. But like I said, it's like the unfortunate norm in the US. Okay, I don't want to get back. I want to get back to my notes. What are you doing, Google? Whew, okay, back to the notes. So yeah, like I said, I can't say that I've ever had any crazy thoughts like that. And I've had some experiences in my life, we'll say, especially with women. But the first thing that ever came to mind was, oh, let's fucking kill them. It was more of the, we're gonna leave this one. There was a few that you worked on them. You worked on the relationship. And there was only one that I just kind of played the escape route taken. Don't look back. But I think all the rest I worked on, the one it just kind of abruptly ended. But yeah. Oh, where to freelance next? I have nothing more. Like I said, I don't know how my stomach was gonna be. How I was gonna feel. Let's get some more background music here. Alright, this is what we're gonna since we're on the relationship game, we're gonna talk about relationships. So I ran across a few funny profiles. Let me get to these profiles because they were very interesting. Actually, it was only one. I thought I tagged the other one. So, I'm not saying that there's anything. Okay, I thought this was funny. Alright, I'm going to read this whole profile. Once my stomach can calm down a little bit. So let me ramble on. So this woman, she's 38. All of her pictures are very interesting. But after you read the profile, then you're like, oh, okay. Now I get it. Alright, hold on a sec. I need something of good significance for my throat. Alright, here we go. Let's see. We're going to take some of this cough DM. Hold on, folks. There's a minor setback in the podcast. Alright, drink. Ugh. God, I love that crap. Okay. I don't think I said her name, so I'm not going to say it. I don't think I said it earlier either. So here's the profile. While I'm writing this, I'm watching The Temptations and eating a chicken pot pie. I am a witch. First red flag. If that freaks you out in any way at all, or not, understand it at all. Okay, whatever. Keep going. Okay, we won't get along because you'll never know what I'm talking about. LOL. Well, yeah, if you see the pictures, then you understand why she's a witch. Which, obviously, I can't show you because we're talking. Alright. If I can look out of your league, I probably am. I can be shallow like that only if you're not within like 5 to 15 mile radius. Just keep going. Because then I'll probably not see you very much. Like, what the heck? First off, your league is very small. Because I don't know many witches. Alright, let's keep going. I lost my spot. Looking for a relationship isn't something that brings a relationship. I'm trying to meet people and see where the chemistry takes it. Which is many directions. Huh? What? You try to meet someone with... that makes 0 sense. I'm trying to meet people and see where the chemistry takes it, which is in many directions. You either have chemistry or you don't have chemistry. It's not I sort of like this. You either are or not. Okay. So, I have 3 animals. 2 cats and a rabbit. I have my own apartment and I live alone with everything I need. Exclamation point. Exclamation point. Exclamation point. Well, it sounds like you're not looking for a relationship. Let me get the background music going. I don't drive because I have epilepsy, but I am very independent. And I am a passionate woman with standards. And life sucks too much to do it alone. But then you look at her pictures, and I only did this one picture, but she looks very serious. It doesn't look like it's a fake photo, like, oh, let's do this for the giggles. But she's wearing all black. She's over a pot on her kitchen. It doesn't even look like a normal type of a soup. It's like a very, like a yellow brown. And yeah, and her bunny is on the counter. And yeah, it's just very like, what the hell is going on? It's like, just put your criteria on, like, be freaking normal. I get it, it's probably normal for her. Maybe maybe she'll find her Gandalf. I don't know. I know I shouldn't judge, but it's just hilarious, some of these profiles that are on this particular app. And it's always funny when I find someone, like I did find, on the Facebook dating that you know. I always just heart them just to, like, see what they do. Like, see how they respond to it, or if they do even respond to it. Especially if it's like someone that I don't, care for. It's always funny. I remember this one time, this one job, this one chick, she was on third shift. She hated my guts right off the bat because I reminded her of her ex. I was not her ex. I just looked and reminded her of her ex. So she hated me. And I'm just like, what did I do? And that's when she explained to me that I looked like her ex. And I was like, okay, but clearly I'm not. And we had our feuds. But then to get back at her, I had the opportunity to be partners with her on her shift. So guess what I did? I went to third shift. And we became best friends. And then she slowly disappeared from that job. And then it was luckily that I got back to the shift that I came from. Which is very lucky. Because I was clearly in the mood of having fun. You know the saying, you know. You keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Exactly. That was why I went to third shift. Because she was always trying to get me in trouble. It was good times. Let me tell you, it was good times working at that place. I miss that place the most. I've had a few good working places, but I missed that place the most. It was so much fun. Second shift, the three of us that were on second shift, all the chemistry that we had just was like perfect. We clicked. We ran that place for like 5 years. Almost 5 years, because obviously I went to third shift, like I said, for a little bit before I finally left. But yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time. Alright, I'm not going to sit here doing the ums. I think we've talked long enough. I didn't do any of my advertising, so we're not going to do it. We'll wait till next podcast. But, you know the drill. This is That Exciting Dude, and you just got done listening to a podcast of stories, lies, and shenanigans. And you know the drill. This is That Exciting Dude, and you just got done listening to Story, Lies, and Shenanigans. Peace. Bye. See you later. Bye, boy.